Hello everyone. Today I will continue telling you the story of the single mother, Tuna. I hope you enjoy watching the video. After many months of secretly making inquiries, Tuna's mother-in-law finally discovered the new place where her daughter-in-law and the baby were living. At first, she only wanted to satisfy her curiosity, to see with her own eyes the bloodline of her son, the child that Tuna had stubbornly hidden away. But as she stood from a distance, seeing the plump baby in his mother's arms, her eyes gradually changed. Filled with desire, scheming, and a simmering fury, a venomous thought arose within her. This child carries the blood of our family. How can it remain with Tuna? A woman who dared defy me abandon the family and walk away. The child must be raised under my control, in my house. He is the pride, the asset, the future of this lineage. From that day on, she could no longer sleep peacefully. In her mind, she painted scenes of the baby living in the family mansion, dressed in fine clothes, calling her grandmother sweetly every morning. She was convinced that if she could separate the baby from Tuna, he would quickly forget that poor, weak mother. During the day, she found every excuse to approach the boarding house where Tuna lived. Sometimes she disguised herself as a vegetable buyer at the market. Sometimes she claimed to visit an old friend in the neighborhood. Each time she loitered near the house, she observed. When Tuna usually took her child outside, when the baby slept, whether the neighbors paid much attention. She remembered it all meticulously, like a predator stalking weak prey. At night, when everyone else slept, she lit an oil lamp in her room and schemed with her trusted aides. They discussed their options. Either use the law, filing a custody case under the name of the grandmother, or secretly hire people to create chaos and seize the child in the confusion. She would not rule out any means, as long as the baby came back to her. At first, Tuna remained unaware. She only noticed a few strange gazes watching her too often, or some overly curious questions. But her maternal instinct made her uneasy. Several nights she woke up from nightmares, clutching her baby tightly, because in her dreams a dark figure had snatched the child away. Her mother-in-law's schemes grew bolder. She began preparing documents to prove blood relations, contacting a lawyer she knew to build a custody case. At the same time, she whispered instructions to a few henchmen. If Tuna refuses, I won't hesitate to use force. A weak woman like her cannot possibly hold on to a child. In her eyes, the baby was no longer an innocent life in need of love, but a tool to secure power and uphold family honor. For Tuna, however, a silent storm was gathering, a battle she could not imagine, with herself and her baby at its very center. Meanwhile, as her mother-in-law secretly plotted to kidnap the baby, Tuna carried on unsuspectingly. Her life remained as simple and routine as ever. That morning, after nursing her child and soothing him to sleep, she gently covered him with a blanket, closed the door to the small room, and lifted her old bamboo baskets. With her worn-out woven bag in hand, she stepped into the garden to harvest custard apples. The small garden behind her house was lush, the custard apple trees heavy with ripe fruit. The pale green skins split slightly, releasing a sweet fragrance. Tuna bent down, her callous but skillful hands carefully picking each fruit and placing it into the basket. Every motion was slow, practiced, like a daily ritual of her humble life. On her face lingered the weariness of sleepless nights tending her child, but in her eyes glimmered hope. She thought of tomorrow's market, of the few coins these fruits would bring, and smiled quietly, imagining her little boy having more milk, a new warm coat for the coming winter. The soft rustling of leaves blended with birdsong in the distance, like a gentle lullaby. Tuna began humming a cradle song, a habit since becoming a mother. Even though the baby was asleep inside, she sang softly as if he could hear it, her voice easing both his slumber and her own burdens. But beyond the thick fence, a cold gaze followed her every move. Her mother-in-law stood half-hidden in the shadows of the trees, her face half-lit, half-dark, lips curling in a calculating smile. She glanced at the filling basket, Yet her thoughts lingered only on the precious possession inside the house, the sleeping baby. A wicked thought flashed. Just one careless moment and I'll step inside, take the boy and vanish. A woman who only knows how to bend over picking fruit could never hold on to her child. As Tuna worked, sweat trickled down her brow, her faded brown shirt stained with dust. Yet she held on to her fragile sense of peace. Little did she know that every step she took, every time she set the baby down and left the room, was being carefully watched, memorized by that malicious woman. The custard apple trellis still gave off its sweet fragrance. The sky remained clear and bright, but a dark shadow had silently cast itself over the small home. And in that seemingly peaceful scene, a tightening trap was closing in on the mother and child, without Tuna having the faintest idea. After the market, Tuna returned home, her thin shoulders weary as she carried the bamboo baskets that now held only a few leftover custard apples. The moment she stepped through the door, she heard her baby crying, his face scrunched up, searching for his mother's warmth. Quickly setting down her load, she removed her conical hat and scooped the baby into her arms. She sat down on the bamboo bed, lifted her blouse and nursed him. Her gentle eyes lingered on his tiny face as he suckled contentedly, and a faint smile softened her lips, sweeping away the exhaustion of the morning. For Tuna, as long as her child was healthy and slept peacefully, every hardship at the market felt light as air. When the baby had his fill, she carefully placed him back into the cradle, tucked a thin blanket around him, and quietly stepped out into the garden. Weeds had grown thick around the custard apple trees and vegetable beds, spreading even across the narrow path. Kneeling down, her calloused hands busily pulled up clumps of grass. Though her fingers worked swiftly, her gaze kept straying back to the room where her little boy lay. The evening breeze whispered through the bamboo grove, carrying with it the soft murmur of nature, making the scene appear tranquil. But at that very moment, from the thicket beyond, Tuna's mother-in-law appeared once more. She silently observed. The baby slept inside while Tuna busied herself with weeds far off in the garden. A thought flickered across her mind. Now is the chance. A shadow crept closer, each step cautious, waiting for the moment when Tuna's head bowed low. Absorbed in her work, sweat trickled down her brow, her frail hands quick yet patient, pulling up stubborn weeds around the custard apple roots. The sound of loosened earth mixed with distant birdsong, painting the picture of an ordinary, peaceful afternoon. Tuna's thoughts were simple. Once the weeds were gone, she would wash the rice, cook dinner, prepare a light soup, then cradle her child to sleep in her arms. Behind her, the wooden door creaked faintly, but Tuna paid no attention. To her, it was only the wind, or perhaps a cat brushing past. She bent lower, eyes on the damp soil, softly humming a lullaby, sending her tender voice into the breeze to comfort the child in the cradle. But inside that house, danger crept closer. Tuna's mother-in-law stepped in quietly, her eyes gleaming in the dim light. She halted before the simple bamboo cradle. The child slept soundly, rosy-faced, his breathing steady, unaware of the greedy gaze fixed upon him. For a brief moment, a softness flickered in the woman's eyes, but it was swiftly smothered by ruthless ambition. She told herself, "This is the true bloodline of our family. He cannot grow up in this shabby house, under the care of a defiant woman who dared oppose me. I must take him back at any cost." Her trembling hand gently lifted the thin blanket, revealing the tiny face, puckered lips, and wisps of fine hair on his forehead. Her eyes gleamed with excitement and tension. Her heart pounded like a war drum as she bent lower, sliding her hands beneath the small body, slowly raising the child from the cradle. The baby stirred, lips twitching as though dreaming of his mother's warmth. A soft whimper escaped, making her freeze for a moment. But the fear of being caught quickly hardened into resolve. She clutched the baby tightly against her chest, breath quickening, lips curling into a sinister smile. Outside, Tuna remained bent over her work. Her faded brown shirt was soaked with sweat, strands of hair stuck to her neck. She had no idea that inside her modest home, her little angel was already cradled in the arms of a merciless woman, preparing to spirit him away. The scene looked serene still. The breeze blew, birds sang, and Tuna's gentle humming carried on. But that peace had already been torn apart by a ruthless hand, while the mother in the garden, lost in her chores, remained blissfully unaware. Clutching the baby tightly in her arms, Tuna's mother-in-law crept forward with careful, silent steps. The child still slept soundly, his steady breaths brushing against her neck, making her all the more anxious yet cautious. Her hands trembled, not out of pity, but from the nervous fear of being discovered. The small house was quiet. Tuna's gentle singing still drifted in from the garden. A cruel irony. She had no idea that only a few steps away, her entire world, her precious son, was being carried farther and farther from her. The old woman slowly pushed the door open bit by bit. The wooden hinge creaked louder in the stillness of the afternoon, making her flinch and glance toward the garden. Luckily, Tuna was still bent over weeding, so absorbed she didn't even look up. Her heart pounded, but her feet quickened. She pressed herself close to the shadow of the trees near the porch, clutching the baby to her chest, and hurried down the narrow path that led to the dirt road behind the house. With each step, relief washed over her. She was putting more and more distance between herself and Tuna. In her arms, the baby began to stir, letting out a faint whimper, sensing something amiss. Quickly, she patted him gently and whispered soothingly, There, my grandson. You're coming home now." Out in the garden, Tuna kept weeding patiently, her heart calm with simple thoughts. She never suspected that in just a few moments, when she returned inside, the cradle would be empty, the room silent, and her child's cries would exist only in memory. The grandmother's figure disappeared behind the bamboo grove, carrying away the tiny life. A silent, soundless separation, yet sharp enough to cut deep into the heart of a mother, because when she discovered the truth, it would already be too late. After finishing the weeding, Tuna let out a long breath of relief. She brushed her hands against her sweat-stained brown blouse and looked toward the little house. A warm longing stirred in her chest. "My child must be sleeping well. I'll go check on him, then start cooking dinner." With light yet eager steps, she walked into the room. At the doorway, she lifted the familiar bamboo curtain, a gentle smile spreading on her lips. But a second later, the smile vanished. The bamboo cradle was empty. The thin blanket was pushed aside, as if someone had hastily lifted the baby out. The entire room was silent. No soft breaths, no familiar whimpers. The air was thick, cold, suffocating. "My child?" Tuna stammered, her voice shaking. She rushed to the cradle, her trembling hands searching desperately, as if the baby might still be hiding somewhere in the tiny bed. But there was nothing. "My child, where are you?" Her scream ripped through the quiet afternoon. Frantically, she searched every corner of the house, flinging open doors, peering under the bed behind curtains. With each place she checked, her heart sank further into despair. Her legs wavered, tears streaming down uncontrollably. "Please don't hide from me. Come back to me, baby," she begged in a hoarse, broken voice. But the only reply was the cold, merciless wind sweeping through the porch. Tuna collapsed before the cradle, clutching the small blanket, her body trembling violently. A nightmare had just struck her life, and she knew her baby had been stolen. "My child, where are you?" Her cries echoed painfully through the little house. Losing all composure, she stumbled out of the room, eyes darting everywhere in panic. The evening wind blew hard across the yard, but the baby was nowhere to be found. Holding her head, she screamed again, her eyes wild with terror. She ran straight into the narrow lane outside, calling out frantically, "Has anyone seen my baby? Where's my baby? Please help me." Startled neighbors rushed out, only to see Tuna pale-faced, her hair disheveled, eyes brimming with tears. She clutched at their hands, asking desperately, Sister, did you see someone carrying a baby? Uncle, did you see my child? But everyone only shook their heads. No one knew what had happened. Like a lost soul, Tuna wept as she ran along the dirt road, eyes scanning every direction, hoping to glimpse her child's tiny figure. She darted through alleys and bends, shouting hoarsely, "My child! My baby, come back to me! Don't leave me!" Her bare feet bled from sharp stones, but she didn't notice. A mother's heart held only one thought. She must find her child, even if it meant running to the ends of the earth. The scene threw the entire neighborhood into turmoil. Some pitied her, some worried, and a few began searching alongside her. But the figure who had carried the baby was long gone, leaving behind only a gaping wound in the heart of a desperate mother. In her despair, Tuna's legs nearly buckled. She stood in the narrow lane, gasping for breath, salty tears streaming down her cheeks. Her hoarse cries for her child echoed through the neighborhood, but the only response was a heavy silence. At that moment of helplessness, Alex's image suddenly appeared in her mind. The man who had once protected her, who had promised to help her whenever she was in trouble. A faint spark of hope flickered in her heart. Alex. Only he can help me now. Without hesitation, Tuna turned, wiped her tears, and ran blindly. Her bare, bleeding feet pressed on as she headed toward Alex's house at the end of the village. With each pounding step, she prayed silently, "Please let me make it in time. Please let him help me find my child." When she arrived, Tuna pounded on the door with both hands, her broken voice crying out, "Alex! Alex, open the door. Please help me, my baby is gone." Her desperate screams echoed through the street. The door flew open and Alex appeared, his face stricken with shock at the sight of her. Thin, disheveled hair, eyes swollen red as if she might collapse at any moment. She threw herself at him, clutching his arm, trembling violently. "Alex, they've taken my child. Please help me." For a moment Alex froze, then quickly gripped her shoulders, determination flashing in his eyes. He knew this was the time to act. Seeing her panic, her cold, fragile hands clinging to him, his heart tightened. He understood her suffering all too well, and the unimaginable pain of losing a child. Holding her shoulders, he kept his voice calm. "Nah, breathe, calm yourself. I'll help you find your baby. We will find him." Those words were like a lifeline in the middle of a storm. Tuna burst into sobs, collapsing against his shoulder, her body shaking uncontrollably. He let her cry, one hand gently patting her back while the other pulled out his phone. His face was tense, eyes flashing cold. His mind quickly pieced things together. Not long ago, he had seen a woman lurking near Tuna's house, her mother-in-law. That shadowy presence now became terrifyingly clear. Alex gritted his teeth and said firmly, "Nah, I have a feeling. The one who took your baby is your mother-in-law. She's the only one with motive and the nerve to do this." Tuna's eyes widened in shock, her heart aching. She stammered, "No, it can't be she." Alex tightened his grip on her shoulders, gaze resolute. "Trust me, we don't have time to hesitate. I'll go with you right now. If she truly took the baby, we can still stop her." He quickly threw on his jacket, holding her hand firmly as if to lend her strength, while dialing trusted friends in the village to spread out and search. His eyes burned with determination, his voice unwavering. "No matter what, I will bring your child back." Still, Alex knew a rash confrontation could put the baby in even greater danger. He lowered his voice, calm yet firm. "Nah, listen. We must do this the right way. If she really took the baby, only the police have the authority to intervene and make her return him." Tuna trembled, but his words gave her a fragile sense of trust. She nodded, eyes blurred with tears, clutching his sleeve as if clinging to her last hope. Alex led her out to the main road and flagged down a motorbike, urging the driver to take them quickly to the commune police station. On the way, the wind whipped her tangled hair as tears streamed unceasingly. She clung to Alex's shirt, sobbing and murmuring, "My child, don't be afraid. Mommy will find you." When they arrived, Alex guided her inside. The duty officer immediately logged the missing baby report and summoned more personnel. Alex spoke on her behalf, laying out every detail: the repeated appearances of her mother-in-law near the house, the sudden disappearance of the baby, and the timing that matched when Tuna left the room to weed the garden. The officer nodded, quickly dispatching 2 teams. One to search the grandmother's house, the other to review surveillance cameras on the main road. Phones rang, engines roared, the air grew tense. In the waiting room, Tuna slumped against Alex's shoulder, still trembling. He wrapped an arm around her, his eyes distant yet burning with determination. "Nah, don't worry. The police are on it. We will bring your child back safely. I promise you." Right after receiving the report, the commune police quickly divided into working teams. One group was dispatched to Tuna's house to check the scene. Alex and Tuna followed along, hearts heavy with worry. The small house stood quietly in the garden, its wooden door still ajar. The bamboo cradle lay empty in the middle of the room, the thin blanket pushed aside as clear evidence of haste. The sight made Tuna burst into tears once more, but Alex gently steadied her shoulders and whispered, "Let them work, nah. This is the first step to finding your child." The officers carefully documented the scene. They photographed the cradle, the blanket, and strange marks on the floor. One officer pointed out footprints in the soil, much larger than Tuna's feet. Outside, the wooden door bore fresh scratches, as though it had been pushed open in a rush. One officer nodded, saying to his team, "Someone definitely broke in. This is no natural disappearance. It's highly likely the child was taken." They extended their search to the garden and the narrow path behind the house. On the dirt road leading out of the village, there were tire marks, signs that someone may have left carrying another passenger. This clue was recorded and cross-checked with security cameras at the nearby intersection. Meanwhile, another officer asked Tuna about her family ties, who might want to take the baby. Choking with emotion, she explained her conflict with her mother-in-law, how the woman had repeatedly tried to approach, even lurking near her home. Every word was carefully written down. Alex, standing beside her, added firmly, "I believe her mother-in-law is directly involved, but please investigate objectively and find evidence, so the baby can be rescued as soon as possible." After gathering the initial evidence, the police immediately dispatched another team to the mother-in-law's house for verification. The atmosphere grew tense as everyone knew, with every passing minute, the chances of finding the baby grew slimmer. While the officers measured, wrote reports, and collected every trace inside the house, Tuna stood by the empty cradle, clutching the small blanket to her chest. Tears streamed down her face, her red eyes staring blankly, breath shallow as though she might collapse at any moment. Alex never left her side. He sat down next to her, gently holding her cold, trembling hands. His voice was low, steady, and warm. "Nah, you must stay strong. The police are on it now, we are not alone. Your child will be found soon, I believe it." Sobbing, Tuna buried her face in his shoulder, her whole body shaking. Alex wrapped his arms around her, shielding her as if to protect her from every storm outside. He gently wiped the tears from her weary face, whispering, "I know you're in pain, but right now you must be strong. Your child needs you. I'm here. I won't let you fall." Those words spread warmth into Tuna's heart. Though the pain still cut deep, she felt a pillar to lean on, a steady anchor in her despair. Alex was not just a witness but the only shoulder she could rely on. Outside, the voices of police officers echoed. Boots stamped the ground, motorbikes revved, ready to rush to the mother-in-law's house. The atmosphere was urgent, tense. Yet inside that small room, Alex held Tuna's hand tightly, preserving a fragile but unwavering hope that her son would return, and that she would never have to fight alone.
Hello Rất vui được gặp lại mọi người trong video của mình nha. Hy vọng rằng những video của mình sẽ mang đến niềm vui cho mọi người, và đặc biệt là giúp mọi người hiểu hơn về cuộc sống của những người mẹ đơn thân đang sinh sống ở Việt Nam. Mọi người nếu cảm thấy những video của mình hay, hấp dẫn thì nhớ cho mình một like, share và nhớ bật chuông thông báo để nhận thông báo khi mình đăng video mới nhất. Nhớ cho mình một bình luận ở dưới phần bình luận để mình tiếp thu ý kiến của mọi người, cải thiện những video sau hay và hấp dẫn hơn. Và nếu cảm thấy kênh của mình có nhiều video hay mang đến niềm vui cho mọi người thì mọi người nhớ chia sẻ cho bạn bè để kênh của mình ngày càng phát triển hơn. Cảm ơn mọi người đã xem hết video của mình. Xin chào và hẹn gặp lại mọi người nha.